So the big question is this: how can dyslexics like us create a place, a community, a tribe where people at any stage of life can come and solve any challenge, amplify their strengths, and ultimately help them become who they were meant to be, or in other words, conquer their dyslexia? That is the question, and this show is the answer. My name's Theo Goff, and welcome to the Conquering Dyslexia podcast. Hey guys, today's episode is about redefining your dyslexia. It's about getting rid of all the past, basically false education we got about dyslexia as a disability, and really having the truth of your dyslexia so it can empower you instead of disempower you. I hope you enjoy. Hello guys, I hope we're doing good. Today I want to talk about something critically important, and it's a critical step to conquering your dyslexia, and that is define what your dyslexia is, okay? Define it is like what I say, redefine your dyslexia or own your dyslexia, and that's what I want to talk about today. And firstly, I think we have to understand, because I remember realizing it when I was going through this journey of really understanding what my own dyslexia is, not a definition of dyslexia, my own dyslexia, because there is a big difference between the definition of dyslexia and your own experience of it. Does that make sense? Because we're all unique, and we have certain strengths in some areas and certain weaknesses in others, and it's different. Because I remember setting out on the journey of I'll try and figure out what dyslexia is and how can I understand it so I can understand myself more better. And so I looked on Google, definition of dyslexia, and you know what it came up with? It came up with a word. Basically, the definition of dyslexia on Google means you have problems understanding words, sounds, and symbols, but has no effect on general intelligence. Now, when I found that out, when I found it has no effect on general intelligence, I was going to say I laughed a bit, but to be honest, I didn't. I got annoyed. Because to me, that says dyslexia only affects you in the classroom. It only affects you in English. No, it doesn't. It doesn't just only affect me in English. It doesn't at all. It affects me my whole life. I used to describe dyslexia like this. Imagine dyslexia, we go into to see a cinema, to see a movie in the cinema. Me, dyslexic, and my friend who's not dyslexic, both go in. We see a film. And we see this film, and we come out remembering two different stories of the film, noticing two different things. We watch the same film, but we've got slightly different experiences of it. We would notice different things. I'd find different things funny, because that's how my brain's wired. My brain's wired differently, therefore I think about things differently, and I notice things differently compared to other people. So I thought, okay, this definition isn't suitable. Let's do more research. And I'm buying a book about dyslexia, like a proper big book, and doing the research on the internet, and there came across all these different theories of theories of dyslexia, or the theories of the dyslexia deficit, and we're then we're going through different deficits, auditory processing disorder, visual motor disorder, so many other ones that I can't remember the name of. And I was reading all these and how this brain is wired differently when doing this test with this part of the brain, because this part of the brain would affect this sort of motor skill, and this sort of motor skill would affect this and this and this. And I remember looking through this book. I can't remember what it's called. It's a really, really big book. Basically, it's the multi-sensory approach to learning. And it was a big book and explaining what dyslexia is. And they had this diagram, very, very complex diagram, where it sort of said, okay, a difference in the way the brain structured, structured, and that would mean the different processing, and go into three different aspects, like phonological deficit, occipital, and all these other things, and gets really complex. I remember looking through all this and getting so confused, not understanding it, seeing all this information coming and thinking, okay, but what actually is dyslexia? How can I fully understand my experience of it? My experience of it isn't all these complex languages that I have to really look up every time I want to explain it to someone or really fully understand it. It has to be something that I understand. So I thought, okay, this isn't it. So I started looking elsewhere on basically videos in this documentary called The Dyslexic Myth. And I thought it was quite funny because it was called that. And I remember watching this documentary, and it was just basically describing how dyslexia might not actually exist, and basically this guy wanted to prove that dyslexia doesn't exist, and I obviously disagreed with that, and a lot of people who like the idea of dyslexia would kind of look at it and think, oh yeah, and kind of be maybe a bit annoyed that this person trying to prove that dyslexia doesn't exist, because it can be a heaven, and for so many people, like owning up, like having a label or having a word describing, making them feel different. So anyway, I was watching this dyslexic documentary, and like about halfway through, this person came on called Keith Stanovich. Now, he is regarded by a lot of people as the world-leading authority on words. Now, that's quite big. I mean, on words, which is quite big. And he basically said he set out on a mission for a decade to prove the scientific difference between a dyslexic and a non-dyslexic person. And how he described the two is a dyslexic person is with normal or high IQ levels, but very low poor reading and writing ability. And that's a dyslexic. And a garden variety person is basically a person with low IQ levels and low reading and writing ability. They call this person garden variety because there's nothing special about them. And I was saying about this, he was saying that after a decade was doing a lot of money, spending a lot of time doing a lot of studies, they found out is that there's no scientific definition to distinguish a dyslexic person from a garden variety person. So that's why he was saying that. And I got really annoyed at this point. I think I threw my controller somewhere. And basically I was like, this is an injustice to the education system. Because just because one group of people could get diagnosed with a piece of paper that they say they have dyslexia and then get the help they need, and then other people who are just as bad as English wouldn't get a piece of paper saying they got dyslexia, and they wouldn't get the help they need, even though they'd improve their reading and writing ability the same amount. Because that's why they was like the same. There's no real difference in the amount of they're improving. So I thought this was insane and mind-blowing that this like this. And then I remember getting really annoyed and writing down what my dyslexia is. I was like, okay, what my dyslexia is. And I was writing down like, dyslexia is a word. That means different things as different people. And my dyslexia means to me. Because I realised basically all these different people have got all these different ideas about what dyslexia is, both in their own experience of it and in their own basically way of writing. Because you could chat to people. Some people hate their dyslexia, think it's the worst thing on earth. Some people love their dyslexia. Some people hate it when they found out they got diagnosed, and then the meaning of the word dyslexia changed over time. So the meaning of what dyslexia changed over time, and here's the thing that I found out. Dyslexia is just a word. It's just a word being invented 130 years ago by a German ornithologist, all this stuff. And it's invented over 130 years ago. And people trying to basically doing research about it, but it's just a word to describe why people are different in a certain way. Okay? And so I realized something about words. All words have zero meaning. The only meaning they have is the meaning you give it. Because it just sounds. It just sounds words, aren't they? But we give these words meaning, and that's why they have impact. Think about it. The word Allah means different things to different people. The word God Almighty means different things to different people. The word dyslexia means different things to different people. This meaning is malleable. This meaning is flexible. And guess what? You ultimately decide the meaning of this word. And it's true. You ultimately decide the meaning of this word. And sometimes we be having a negative education teaching us about what a false belief about what dyslexia is, and then we take their meaning like it's a disability, it's a learning disability, and then we take that in and we act in accordance to that way, and that massively limits us. So I remember getting the sheet of paper out saying dyslexia is just a word, dyslexia is a strength. Dyslexia is strength. Dyslexia is not a disability. Dyslexia has strengths because there's weaknesses. I'm going to explain that. And we've done all these different things about what dyslexia is, and I found empowering. And yes, I know I was diagnosed with dyslexia and attention problems and all these other things, but I don't go around holding all these different labels of what dyslexia means to me. I just go around holding the word dyslexia as, I've got dyslexia, and this is my dyslexia. I don't care about what the clinical definition of dyslexia, I care about my life. Okay? And I don't hold any of these meanings of what dyslexia is as a be-all and end-all. Like, I'll never be able to improve my English. No, that's not what dyslexia is. That's a belief. Dyslexia means I find these things certainly hard, and I find these things easier. That's basically what it is. So I basically created what my own definition of was dyslexia, and I felt so much more empowered. So that's a way of how we can redefine our dyslexia. I want to tell you another story that's really valuable. Basically, I had a friend, and basically she had schizophrenia, And when I was talking to her and spent a lot of time with her, I remember basically like her psychiatrist said that, oh, we've done these new tests and basically she hasn't got schizophrenia, she's got some other thing. And because of schizophrenia, a lot of times it can be helped with a lot of drugs and a lot of pills and prescription, and it is really beneficial. It's like, oh no, we've done all these different tests and now you're basically diagnosed with something else. Similar to schizophrenia, but not quite schizophrenia. So he gave her loads of pills, and the pills take a little while to work, and oftentimes the symptoms of schizophrenia can be worse in the little gap of not taking the pills. And basically she got like really bad for a couple of days or maybe a week, and then she got normal with the pills, and oftentimes the pills were a lot more stronger. And then some other test came out, and he'd done some other like loads of questions, and it found out, no, he hasn't got this thing, she's got this thing. And then she, not knowing what she's got, reading all this stuff, taking loads of these different pills, and she was like going like that. And believe me, I know, I was kind of like on the journey of going with her up and down. But you know what I found out at the end of the journey? Is that, guess what didn't change? Her diagnosis changed, her drugs she took changed, all these different things changed, but she didn't change. Still was the same person at the start as she was at the end. The only thing that was different was what we labelled her with. Schizophrenia is a label to describe why you have certain things. Dyslexia is a label to describe why you have certain things. So oftentimes we can get caught up with, oh no, he hasn't got this, he's got that. Oh no, he hasn't got this, he's got that, he's got this, he's got that, he's got this terminology. No, he hasn't got all these different things, he's just him. Does that make sense? He doesn't change. I don't change. You don't change. The word dyslexia, like for example, I can be suffering, I can be struggling with all the difficulties of dyslexia and then be diagnosed and feel different. The only reason why I'd feel different is because I've got a label to describe why certain things are happening. It doesn't mean I've changed at all. My brain is still the same. I'm still operating the same abilities, but I just have a label to describe it. Okay? And that's what all dyslexia is, a label to describe why these difficulty things are, that other people can understand. So we have to have a label for what we are. We have to label about what we are acting and and redefine our dyslexia and know what it is. And now what I want to say at the end of this is that there's 6 beliefs that basically what I consider done through the test of time that are 100% true. Okay, and now I really want to say these beliefs and say, now I would call them more facts about dyslexia, but because they're not as widely known, because people don't really know it. But these things are true, and I want us to really understand these and really find references of how they're true in our own life. Because how beliefs work is someone tells you something, and if it has a lot of references, if you can prove that it's true, it's more of a belief in your life. But if you have less references, like sort of less reason to believe it's true, it's less a belief in your life. I hope that makes sense. So I'll go through these real fast. The first thing that I believe, that I think what I wrote down, is dyslexia is malleable and changeable. What I mean by this, just because I've got dyslexia does not mean I can't improve certain things. It means, yes, I can improve my English, I can improve my reading and writing, I can improve this. It just requires a certain strategy. And some things will be harder to improve than others, but it is malleable and it is changeable, okay? First belief. The second belief, dyslexia is a different ability. It's my brain that wires in a certain way, so it's a different ability. It's not a disability, it's a different ability. Third one, this one's really important. Because dyslexia, we have strengths because we have weaknesses. We have weaknesses because we have strengths. For example, there's a book called Dyslexia Advances that goes in detail on this. It talks about 4 major strengths that we have for dyslexia, and basically because these strengths, we find these certain other things hard. For example, I'll give you a little brief description, and I'd really recommend read the book. But first one, we have, for example, we have a strength by really taking a step back and seeing the big picture of things. And because we're good at seeing the big picture of things, that's how our mind works, we find it really hard to see the detail of things. For example, what I'm talking about, I can really good at understanding a person. What was that like? Talking about them, how do they grow up? How are they now? How are they feeling? You mean what's their kind of like traits? How do they look? I can see that. I can visualize that. I can see the whole of the person. But I have no reason why this person is called Sarah. There's no logical reason of why this person is called Sarah. Therefore, that's a detail part. Therefore, it's hard for me to remember. Does that make sense? It's like the certain names of these little mechanics is quite hard to remember, but I'm good at understanding the body. I'm good at understanding how the human anatomy works, but not about all the different individual muscles, like the 4 muscles in the quadriceps. I don't know, because there's no reason. I just know what they do. Okay, so that's basically dyslexia strengths because we have weaknesses. Basically, dyslexia is not a disability. It's our environment that makes us think it's a disability. It's our environment. Basically, we have strengths because of weaknesses, but it's an environment that basically is required for us to work on our weaknesses a lot more than it is for our strengths. Reading and writing a weakness. It basically makes us work on our weaknesses a lot more. And that's why we think it's a disability. It's our environment that makes dyslexia a disability, not our dyslexia. I hope that makes sense. And basically, the biggest disability with dyslexia is what we believe about it, okay? And also, one more thing, it's really critical. The struggles we have of dyslexia make us stronger. The struggles we have of dyslexia make us stronger. Think about it. If we go to the gym all the time and go through so much struggle in the gym, we can get stronger, aren't we? But if we go to the gym and find it easy every single day, we're not going to get stronger. If we go through life, school, and struggle, we can get stronger. Won't we? If we struggle through life, we can get stronger. That's how it works. If it's easy, we're not going to get stronger. And when something hard happens, we won't know how to deal with it because we don't have the strength to do it. We don't have the resources within ourselves to do it. Guys, I really hope we writ these positive beliefs down about our dyslexia. I know I went through this fast. You can go through it yourself, listen to it a couple of times, write it down. But this is a really empowering way to look at your dyslexia and really redefining it to what it is. Guys, take care. Farewell and bye.